เปิดก่อนเนี่ยลงน้ำ
We begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin people. The Algonquin peoples have lived on this land since time immemorial. We are grateful to have the opportunity to be present in this territory. Nous commençons par reconnaître que la terre sur laquelle nous nous rassemblons est le territoire traditionnel non cédé au peuple algonquin Anishinaabe. Les peuples algonquins habitent ce territoire depuis ces temps immémoriaux. Nous sommes reconnaissants d'avoir l'opportunité d'être présents sur ce territoire.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please rise for the national anthem? Mesdames et messieurs, s'il vous plaît, vous levez pour l'hymne national du Canada. Please be seated. My name is Mike McKenna, Canadian Fallen Firefighters Foundation Second Vice President, and I will be your Master of Ceremonies today. On behalf of the Executive, the Board of Directors, and the Canadian Fallen Firefighter Foundation, welcome to the 20th Canadian Firefighters Annual Memorial Ceremony. I would like to introduce our dignitaries for today's ceremony. Bonjour à vous tous. Je m'appelle Mike McKenna. Je suis le deuxième vice-président de la Fondation canadienne des pompiers morts en service. Je serai aujourd'hui votre maître de cérémonie au nom du comité exécutif, au conseil d'administration de la Fondation canadienne des pompiers morts en service. Je tiens à vous souhaiter la plus cordiale bienvenue à la 20e cérémonie annuelle de la mémoire des pompiers canadiens. Mais avant de débuter, laissez-moi vous présenter nos dignitaires pour la cérémonie d'aujourd'hui. Representing the Government of Canada, représentant le gouvernement du Canada, Sherry Romanato, member of Parliament for Longueuil, Charles-Lemoine, Québec. Membre du Parlement pour Longueuil, Charles-Lemoine, Québec. Representing our honorary host, représentant l'hôte honoraire de la cérémonie d'aujourd'hui, M. Kim Connors, Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Centre. M. Kim Connors du Centre Interservice des Feux de forêt du Canada. Representing the Canadian Fallen Firefighter Foundation, our president, retired Fire Chief David Sheen. Le président de la Fondation canadienne des pompiers morts en service, M. David Sheen, directeur incendie retraité. I now introduce retired Fire Chief David Sheen, President of the Canadian Fallen Firefighter Foundation. Je vous présente maintenant le chef retraité, directeur incendie retraité, David Sheen, représentant la Fondation canadienne des pompiers morts en service.
Thank you, Mike. Deputy Leader of Government, Sherry Romanato, Member of Parliament, John Brassard, Mr. Kim Connors, Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Centre Executive Director, fellow firefighters, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, but most and above all, our special families, good morning. On behalf of the Board of Directors, ambassadors, and supporters of the Canadian Fallen Firefighters Foundation, it is my privilege to welcome everyone to this annual memorial ceremony as we honor and remember those firefighters who died in the service of their communities. Similarly, it has been our privilege to have the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Centre as this year's honorary host. A huge thank you to Executive Director Kim Connors and his team for adding so much to our weekend program and today's ceremony. The CIFC group is representative of our wildland sisters and brothers, and we are all well aware of the unprecedented wildfire situation our country has had this year, along with the significant losses experienced by this incredible group of individuals. In the face of all of these challenges they have been presented, they have stepped up in such yeoman fashion, and this Memorial Weekend has been no exception. This year marks the 20th annual national ceremony hosted by the CFFF. For those of us who have been a part of this sacred mission from the beginning, it's hard to imagine that 20 years has passed. We are so very happy today to be welcoming our founders and past presidents to this ceremony. 20 years of coming together as a fire services family to honor and remember our brothers and sisters, and also to both offer our support to and to thank our special families for the support that they provided to their loved ones during their years of selfless service. Today's ceremony is a tangible remembrance of our fallen, firefighters from across our great nation and from every facet of the fire service. Firefighters who have always put the safety and well-being of others ahead of their own. While the fire service and indeed all Canadians, honor and remember our fallen with this ceremony and monument. We honor also the families who lost a loved one in the service of their community. We are committed to continue our support, and to you, the families, we say thank you. Always remember that you are and will remain a part of our Canadian Fallen Firefighters Foundation family. In closing, thank you all for your continued support, for this your act of remembrance, and for joining us in honoring our brothers and sisters, friends and colleagues, partners and heroes. You have distinguished us with your presence and participation, and we look forward to your continued support of the sacred mission of the Canadian Fallen Firefighters Foundation. Thank you.
Nous avons le privilège cette année d'accueillir le Centre interservices de feux de forêt du Canada à titre d'hôte honoraire de cette cérémonie. Nous remercions chaleureusement son exécutif, M. Kim Connors, ainsi que son équipe, pour l'apport d'une contribution essentielle au succès de le programme de notre fin de semaine et de cette cérémonie. Durant cette cérémonie et devant ce monument, le service d'incendie canadien et tous les Canadiens rassemblent pour honorer nos confrères et nos consoeurs disparus et commémorer leurs souvenirs. Nous rendons également hommage aux familles qui ont perdu un être cher au service de leur communauté et envers lequel famille nous nous sommes engagés à poursuivre notre travail de soutien. À vous les familles, nous vous disons merci. N'oubliez jamais que vous faites et ferez toujours partie de la grande famille de la Fondation canadienne des pompiers morts en service. En terminant, permettez-moi de vous remercier tous et toutes pour votre soutien sans cesse renouvelé et surtout pour votre présence ici aujourd'hui. Dans cet acte de se souvenir et d'honorer nos frères et nos sœurs, pour qui est aussi des amis et des collègues, des partenaires et des héros. Vous nous faites l'insigne honneur de votre présence et votre participation. Et à cet égard, la Fondation canadienne des pompiers morts en service compte bien penser qu'elle pourra encore jouir de votre soutien continu dans l'accomplissement de sa mission. Merci. It is now my pleasure to introduce, j'ai maintenant le plaisir de vous présenter, Sherry Romanato, ministère du Parlement, Minister of Parliament, Longueuil, Lemoine.
President Sheen, Vice President Wiley, Executive Director Connors, firefighters, families, and friends of the fallen, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, bonjour. C'est pour moi un grand honneur et un privilège d'être parmi vous encore une fois cette année. Merci à la Fondation pour l'invitation et de nous donner l'occasion de nous arrêter un moment pour réfléchir aux multiples contributions des pompiers. Today, in solemn commemoration, we come together to honor Canadian firefighters and the families who have lost a loved one in the line of duty. And on the eve of the 22nd anniversary of the September 11th attacks, we remember the courage and sacrifice of the Canadian and American firefighters and first responders who stepped up in the face of unprecedented uncertainty and danger. We pause to remember 343 and so many more. This summer, Canada is experiencing the worst wildfire season in its history. Over 200,000 people have been evacuated and 16.5 million hectares have already been ravaged by a large number of fires, some of which could take another few weeks to extinguish completely. Unfortunately, we have lost firefighters on the front lines of these fires. I offer my sincere condolences to the families and friends of these brave heroes. As this year's unprecedented wildfire season continues in many provinces and territories, the Government of Canada is continuing to support Canadians now while strengthening Canada's preparedness for years to come. In the past few days, we've finalized agreements with both British Columbia and the Northwest Territories. BC will receive $32 million and over $28 million will be provided to Northwestern Territories over the next 5 years to fight wildfires. And we announced funding through the first phase of the Fighting and Managing Wildfires in a Changing Climate Training Fund. These funds will be provided to the International Association of Firefighters for their Responding to the Interface program, which will provide specialized training to structural firefighters, expanding their skills and capabilities. This training will help better prepare and equip firefighters to fight wildfires. We've provided federal assistance in Alberta, Nova Scotia, Quebec, and Ontario. Canadian Armed Forces members are assisting with firefighting activities, planning and coordination of airlift resources as part of Oplentis, and hundreds of firefighters from other countries have come to help. Thank you to all the firefighters, first responders, and Canadian Armed Forces personnel who've been working tirelessly to keep communities and Canadians safe. Let's pray and hope that a season like the one we just had is exceptional and not the new normal. Unfortunately, however, we know that the extreme exposure to the toxic chemicals in these intense and frequent wildfires will have a negative impact on the health of these first responders in the future. Today, as we gather here beside this powerful monument on Le Breton Flats, we honor 86 firefighters who made the ultimate sacrifice. 81 of these brave heroes died from occupational illness. As you know, my private member's Bill C-224, an act to establish a national framework for the prevention and treatment of cancers linked to firefighting, received royal assent in late June of this year and is now federal law. This legislation will raise awareness of cancers linked to firefighting and to support improved information sharing and access for firefighters to cancer prevention and treatment resources. Thanks to the support of the firefighting community, we now have an extra tool that will help us achieve our goal. And our goal with this new legislation is to hopefully have fewer helmets on the red ceremonial table at future fallen firefighters' memorial ceremonies. Pour ma part, je vais continuer à travailler pour ce que cette loi donne des résultats le plus rapidement possible et contribue à assurer la sécurité des pompiers et des pompières et qu'ils aient accès aux informations disponibles, aux soins et au soutien qu'ils méritent. To the families and loved ones of the 86 fallen firefighters being memorialized today, we stand shoulder to shoulder with you. We support you. We honor their ultimate sacrifice. Their bravery calls us to remember their deep commitment to help those in need and to echo those values in our daily lives. The legacies that they leave behind will always be with us. Au nom de tous les Canadiens, nous vous remercions de votre service. On behalf of all Canadians, we thank you for your service. Merci. Thank you.
And now representing our honorary host, Mr. Kim Connors, Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Center, et maintenant représentant notre hôte honoraire, M. Kim Connors, du Centre Interservice des Feux de forêt du Canada.
Mr. Romanato, President Sheen, honored guests, families of the fallen, and ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Canadian Wildland Fire community, I want to thank the Fallen Firefighters Foundation for giving CIFC the opportunity to host and to be this year's honorary host. It is a responsibility we do not take lightly. As you know, and as has been said, the 2023 wildfire season in Canada has been the worst ever recorded. The wildland fire community has suffered devastating losses, with 4 of our colleagues sacrificing their lives to protect our forest, our communities, and our people. This is, of course, after the tragic loss of Riley Manage Pitch from Manitoba just a year ago. It is paramount that we come together at this place every year to stand with the families, colleagues, and friends to honor those who have given their lives in the line of duty for the protection of all. It is more important, however, that we remember our fallen not just at this place or as names on this memorial, but daily for their courage, their strength, and their dedication to their communities. In their deeply felt absence, we are now entrusted with watching over their loved ones and must continue to check in on, lend our support to, and protect their families. Momentarily, you will see overhead a CL-415 aircraft. It'll perform a ceremonial flypast in memory of all those who were honored here at this memorial. These aircrafts are designed and built in Canada specifically for suppressing forest fires and are also commonly used around the world. Thank you for joining us today to honor these brave people and all they have given. Thank you.
Madame Romanado, Monsieur le Président Sheen, chers invités, familles des pompiers morts en service, Mesdames et Messieurs, au nom de la communauté canadienne des pompiers forestiers, je tiens à remercier la Fondation canadienne des pompiers morts en service d'avoir donné au CFC l'occasion d'être l'hôte honoraire de la cérémonie cette année. C'est une responsabilité que nous ne prenons pas à la légère. Comme vous le savez, la saison des feux de forêt 2023 a été la pire jamais enregistrée au Canada. La communauté des pompiers forestiers a subi des pertes dévastatrices, 4 de nos collègues ayant sacrifié leur vie pour protéger nos forêts, nos communautés et notre population. Cela suite à la perte tragique de Riley Manage Pitch au Manitoba il y a tout juste un an. Il est primordial que nous nous réunissons chaque année à cet endroit, nous tenons aux côtés des familles, des collègues et des amis afin d'honorer ceux qui ont donné leur vie dans l'exercice de leurs fonctions pour la protection de tous. Cependant, il est encore plus important que nous nous souvenions de ceux qui sont tombés non seulement à cet endroit ou en tant que nom sur un monument, mais aussi chaque jour pour leur courage, leur force et leur dévouement à leur communauté. En leur absence profondément ressentie, nous sommes désormais chargés de veiller sur leurs proches et devons continuer à prendre des nouvelles de leurs familles, à leur apporter notre soutien et à les protéger. Vous verrez dans quelques instants un avion CL-415 effectuer un survol cérémoniel en mémoire de tous ceux qui sont honorés aujourd'hui. Ces avions sont conçus et construits au Canada spécifiquement pour lutter contre les incendies de forêt et sont également couramment utilisés dans le monde entier. Merci de vous joindre à nous aujourd'hui pour rendre cet hommage à ces personnes courageuses et à tout ce qu'elles ont donné. Je vous remercie.
As we do every year at this time, Foundation First Vice President Doug Wiley will now read the names of those firefighters added to the Canadian Firefighters Memorial whose families were unable to attend. Comme chaque année, le premier vice-président de la Fondation, M. Doug Wiley, même feront maintenant la lecture des noms de tous les pompiers qui ont été ajoutés au monument des pompiers canadiens depuis la dernière cérémonie.
Good morning. Starting with British Columbia, Captain Gerald Allison Andrews, Burnaby Fire Department. Captain Glenn Charles Robert Powell, National Defence Fire Service, CFB Esquimalt. Province of Saskatchewan, Captain Kelly Hamilton, Regina Fire and Protective Services. Province of Ontario, Captain Bradley Andrews, Toronto Fire Services. Platoon Chief Bruce Johnson, Niagara Falls Fire Department. Captain Robert Paget, Ottawa Fire Services. Acting Captain Jason Pell, Toronto Fire Services. Captain William Wainwright, Toronto Fire Services. Platoon Chief Robert Vesey, Whitby Fire and Emergency Services. Province of Quebec, Lieutenant Gaétan Campeau, Service de Sécurité Incendie de Montréal. Capitaine Léopold Guillaume, Service de Sécurité Incendie de Montréal. Policier Pompier René Robineau, Ville de Salaberry de Valleyfield.
We will now honor those active firefighters added to the Canadian Firefighters Memorial this year. Nous allons maintenant rendre hommage à tous ces pompiers qui ont fait l'ultime sacrifice alors qu'ils étaient actifs. Captain Benoit Séguin, Hawkesbury Fire Department, Ontario. Pompier Jean-Paul Laforêt, Service de sécurité incendie de Montréal, Québec. Assistant Chief Nick Chesnick, Lake Country Fire Department, British Columbia. Captain Douglas Lynn, Toronto Fire Services, Ontario. Pompier Rosaire Hamel, Ville de Vaudreuil, Dorion, Québec. Fire Chief Gary Charles Davidson, Township of South Frontenac, Ontario. Captain Brian McKay, Halifax Regional Fire and Emergency, Nova Scotia. Captain Thomas T. Gilbert, Windsor Fire and Rescue Services, Ontario. Firefighter Xavier Bracken, Markham Fire Department, Ontario. District Chief Robert Cooper, Windsor Fire and Rescue Service, Ontario. Captain Joe Kohler, Kelowna Fire Services, British Columbia. Assistant Chief Meredith Samuel Scott, Kamloops Fire Department, British Columbia. Captain Theodore Helkowicz, Oshawa Fire Services, Ontario. Directeur Bruno Lachance, Service de sécurité incendie de Montréal, Québec. Fire Chief William Walker, City of Grand Prairie Fire Department, Alberta. Firefighter Michael Pierce, Kitchener Fire Department, Ontario. We please ask that the families, when your names are called, to proceed to the end of the aisle. On va vous demander de vous lever quand votre nom est appelé, de procéder au bout de la ligne. Merci. Senior Firefighter Derek McLean, Sharman, Calgary Fire Department, Alberta. Captain Gerald Smith, Fire Paramedic Service, City of Winnipeg, Manitoba. Captain Carl Conrad, St. John Fire Department, New Brunswick. Captain Ralph Sparks, Toronto Fire Services, Ontario. Fire Chief John Charles Cassidy, Colwood Fire Rescue, British Columbia. Firefighter Marcel Ehalt, Smithers Fire Rescue, British Columbia. Capitaine Louis Bouffal, Service de sécurité incendie de Montréal, Québec. Captain Leonard W. Madison, Calgary Fire Department, Ontario. Captain George Thomas Wright, Edmonton Fire Rescue, Alberta. Captain Patrick Hayes, Ajax Fire and Emergency Services, Ontario. Captain William H. Clark, Saskatoon Fire Department, Saskatchewan. Firefighter Martin Tremblay, Service d'incendie Bois-Châtel, L'Ange-Gardien, Québec. Firefighter Ryan Hill, Ottawa Fire Services, Ontario. Firefighter Michael John May, Hamilton Fire Department, Ontario. Firefighter Norman Gary Pleadwell, National Defence Fire Service, Canadian Forces Base, Petawawa, Ontario. Captain Raymond David Ross, Calgary Fire Department, Alberta. Firefighter Stephen Rayfield, Castor Fire and Rescue, Alberta. Captain Dennis Dale Pointer, Regina Fire and Protective Services, Saskatchewan. Captain Charles Brown, Ottawa Fire Services, Ontario. Captain Peter Rombo, Oshawa Fire Services, Ontario. Capitaine Gérald Thibault, Service de sécurité incendie de Montréal, Québec. Pompier Michel Legault, Service de sécurité incendie de Montréal, Québec. Captain Terry Hoyles, St. John's International Airport Authority, Newfoundland. Lieutenant Dominique Jean, Régie, Géant, Québec. Pompier Raymond Lapointe, Service de sécurité incendie de Montréal, Québec. Firefighter Michael Yakubowski, Hamilton Fire Department, Ontario. District Chief Daryl Marchuk, Edmonton Fire Rescue, Alberta. Firefighter Ted Subinia, Toronto Fire Services, Ontario. Captain Jerry Gunther, Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Services, Manitoba. Firefighter David Marlowe, Town of Trinity Fire Department, Newfoundland. Platoon Chief Gary Stockdale, Brantford Fire Department, Ontario. Captain Bruce Lewis, Halton Hills Fire Department, Ontario. Wildfire Crew Leader Tyler Riley Manich Pitch, Manitoba Natural Resources and Northern Development, Manitoba. Platoon Chief Tim Orton, Ottawa Fire Services, Ontario. Platoon Chief Harry James Boutillier, Niagara Falls Fire Department, Ontario. Captain Norman C. Sinclair, Toronto Fire Services, Ontario. Pompier Yves Deshôtels, Service de sécurité incendie de Montréal, Québec. Deputy Fire Chief Robert Rutan, Brantford Fire Department, Ontario. Firefighter Bruce Brebner, Zora Fire and Emergency Services, Ontario. Captain Alan Little, Calgary Fire Department, Alberta. Training Officer Andre Dubé, Roberts Creek Volunteer Fire Department, British Columbia. Firefighter Edward Nash, Branch Volunteer Fire Department, Newfoundland. Platoon Chief James McRae, National Defence Fire Services, Canadian Forces Base, Borden, Ontario. District Chief Christian Cochon, Toronto Fire Services, Ontario. Captain Kenneth A. Hagan, Toronto Fire Services, Ontario. Lieutenant Adam Croker, Leamington Fire Services, Ontario. Captain Grant Schultz, Calgary Fire Department, Alberta. Assistant Chief Lance Cavan, Langford Fire Rescue, British Columbia. Lieutenant Raymond Dion, Service incendie de la Ville de Québec. Pompier Jean-Claude Dubé, service incendie de la Ville de Québec. Captain Robert Allen, Calgary Fire Department. Captain Irvin H. Bocher, Calgary Fire Department. Captain Harold John Wallabeck, Calgary Fire Department. Captain Robert Graham Yates, Calgary Fire Department. Platoon Chief Philip Alder, Lethbridge Fire Department, Alberta. In the past, it was the bell that signaled the beginning of the firefighter shift, sounded each alarm when the call was completed. When a firefighter had died in the line of duty, it was the toll of the bell that solemnly announced the comrade's passing. And so, to those who have selflessly given their lives for the good of their fellow men, their tasks completed, their duties well done. To our comrades, to their last alarm, they are going home. Autrefois, c'était la cloche qui signalait le début du cadre des troupes des pompiers et qui faisait retenir chaque alarme. Elle, encore, qui marquait la fin des appels. Et lorsqu'un pompier mourait dans l'exercice de ses fonctions, c'est cette même cloche qui annonçait le deuil du camarade. Ainsi, en est-il pour ceux et celles qui ont consenti au don de leur vie pour leurs semblables, leur tâche étant bien achevée et leur devoir bien accompli. Pour vous, chers camarades, votre dernière alarme est venue. Vous pouvez maintenant rentrer. The uniformed personnel, please rise and pay respects for the playing of the last post. Personnel en uniforme, veuillez, s'il vous plaît, vous lever et respecter les jeux du dernière sonnerie.
Shoulder, arm. party, present. Arms. All party, shoulder. Arms. All party, order. Colors.
Please be seated. S'il vous plaît, veuillez vous asseoir.
Order. Colors. All party, stand at.
We now call on Foundation Chaplain Reverend Jean Morissette. J'invite maintenant l'aumônier de la Fondation, Jean Morissette.
Thank you for the invitation. Your Honor, distinguished guests, famille et amis, and firefighters, pompiers. Une fois de plus, nous sommes ici pour honorer, pour nous souvenir de nos défunts, who are here also to support their loved one. This year has been particularly difficult across our nation for our firefighters and their loved one. Leurs services, leurs sacrifices ont été payés à grand prix. Et pour cela, nous sommes reconnaissants. Their service, their sacrifice came out at a great cost. Our nation is forever in your debt. Word, 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 some may say. Parole, le parole, parole. What's a name, some may ask on a wall? Qu'est-ce qu'un nom sur un mur? Mais ce n'est pas n'importe quel nom. C'est le nom d'un époux ou une épouse. C'est le nom d'un enfant, de quelqu'un qui a été chéri. C'est le nom d'un membre de famille. C'est le nom d'un pompier. C'est le nom d'un héros. What kind of name is on this wall, you may ask? It's the name of someone's spouse. It's the name of someone's baby. It's the name of a family member. It's the name of a firefighter. It's the name of a hero. Firefighter, please stand for the prayer of the firefighter. Pompiers, veuillez vous lever pour la prière des pompiers. When I'm called to duty, God, whenever flame may rage, give me strength to save a life, whatever be its age. Help me embrace a little child before it's too late, or save an older person from the horror of their faith. Enable me to be alert, to hear the weakest shout, and quickly and efficiently putting out the fire. C'est avec gloire que je remplirai ma destinée. Sauver des vies n'est-ce pas plus le plus beau métier? Quand le calme revient et quand chacun retrouve ses biens, c'est alors que je serai fier d'avoir été mon prochain. S'il s'arrivait que par ta volonté, Seigneur, ma vie, je sois obligé de donner, je prie de veiller sur les miens et de bénir en moi les pompiers qui est tien. And if according to your will I must answer death, last call. Bless your protecting hand, my family, one and all. Amen. Please be seated.
Before we conclude today's ceremony with the Firefighters March Past and Salute to the Families, this year's honorary host, Representative Mr. Kim Connors, will pass the All Fallen Helmet to our 2024 honorary host, Canadian Volunteer Fire Services Association President Brian Starker. Avant de conclure la cérémonie d'aujourd'hui, le représentant de l'autre honoraire de cette année, M. Kim Connors, va maintenant effectuer la transmission du casque tenant lieu de tous les pompiers décédés de l'autre honoraire de l'édition 2024, soit l'Association canadienne des services d'incendie volontaires, représentée par son président, M. Brian Starker. Mesdames et messieurs, sujet demeuré ici. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our official ceremony, and we sincerely thank you for joining us in this act to honor and remembrance. Mesdames et messieurs, cela met fin à la cérémonie annuelle et nous remercions sincèrement de vous être joints à nous aujourd'hui afin de vous rendre hommage et se souvenir. It's come to my attention, unfortunately, that some families may have the wrong medallion. If you can verify, and if you don't have the right medallion, please come to the stage and we'll sort this out. C'est venu à mon attention qu'il y a possiblement de votre famille qui n'ont pas le bon médaillon avec le nom de votre proche. Si c'est le cas, s'il vous plaît de venir d'en avant et on va régler ça. Merci à tous. Thank you all.